Hello and welcome into this RNN news break right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below and hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's RNN news break, it is finally confirmed after months of being rumored. Daniel Suarez is headed to Stewart Haas Racing in 2019, taking over that 41 car that was vacated by Kurt Busch as Busch heads over to Chip Ganassi Racing. This is a multi-year deal for Daniel Suarez with sponsorship from Aris and Haas Automation. So Aris comes over with Suarez from JGR and replaces the hole that Monster left when they left with Kurt Busch, and then Haas Automation obviously filling out the remainder of the schedule like they did with Kurt Busch. The races that Monster didn't sponsor, and I believe State Water Heaters did a couple of races too. Not really sure if they're coming back on this 41 car or not. Not really sure if they were a Kurt Busch sponsor or an SHR sponsor. So we'll have to see. The only sponsors announced in this announcement were Aris and Haas Automation. So the biggest thing with this, now that we know 100% for certain that Daniel Suarez is in that 41 car, Daniel Suarez has some things to prove here. He's had 2 years at what is arguably the best team in the Cup Series at Joe Gibbs Racing and hasn't performed. Hasn't made the chase either year, hasn't won a race, hasn't really put up all that many impressive finishes. Now, I know there are a lot of people really down on Daniel Suarez because of this. And I see where you're coming from, but I have two arguments to that. One, Daniel himself came out a few weeks ago and said he did not get the equipment that he thought he necessarily deserved at Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm paraphrasing right now. I don't have the article in front of me, but basically said that he didn't get the equipment that he deserved at JGR, that other teams were getting the better equipment. And this is not the first time we've heard this out of JGR. Joey Logano, case in point. Joey Logano did not do very well in his time at Joe Gibbs Racing. Did get some wins under his belt, did have some decent finishes, but for the most part in his 4 years at Joe Gibbs Racing, didn't really do anything. Then he goes over to Team Penske, and I mean, we know what he's done in his 5 years at Team Penske now, all culminating now with a championship in 2018, and I think that's probably not the last championship we're going to see out of Joey Logano. But Joey Logano was another one that didn't really get all the best equipment at Joe Gibbs Racing, and I know I've seen people say, well, he was that Suarez was in the 19 car. He took over for Carl Edwards, and look what Carl Edwards did in that 19 car. You can use that same argument for Joey Logano, though. Joey Logano took over that 20 car from Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart had won 2 championships in that car. Tony Stewart put up some impressive finishes, put up some impressive wins in that car, and Joey Logano really didn't do anything in that 20 car. Same thing for Daniel Suarez. Now, I'm not saying that this is an apples-to-apples comparison. Joey Logano and Daniel Suarez are two different drivers. Joey Logano was much younger when he came into the Cup Series. He was 18 years old his rookie season in the Cup Series. So Joey Logano much younger than Daniel Suarez, as Suarez was 25 in his rookie season. So I'm not saying this is necessarily an apples-to-apples comparison, but there are some similarities, and I'm saying don't count Daniel Suarez out just yet, because I think we're going to see some good things out of Daniel Suarez this season. Still remains to be seen, and I think this is a pivotal year for Daniel Suarez. It's going to take him some time to get used to the team. There's no doubt about that. I don't expect him to come right out of the gate and win the Daytona 500. I don't expect that to happen, although Eric Almirola almost did that last year in the same situation at Stewart Haas Racing. So it's possible, but I don't necessarily expect it to happen. He's got a car underneath him that can do it. We've seen what these SHR cars can do at plate tracks. We saw it at Talladega, how they were the fastest cars in the field by a long shot. So, it's possible, But I don't expect him to be right out of the gate really good. It's going to take him some time. It usually takes drivers time to get used to a new team like that and get used to a new manufacturer. He's got a Ford now and not a Toyota. So don't expect great results right out of the gate. If there are great results right out of the gate, fantastic. But don't expect it right out of the gate. I expect by the end of the season, by the time we get to Homestead, I think we're really going to have an idea of what Daniel Suarez is capable of. I mean, you look at Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola came from that Richard Petty Motorsports team, subpar equipment, comes over to SHR, wins a race this season, definitely could have won more than that, makes it all the way to the round of 8 in the playoffs. Eric Almirola showed us what SHR equipment can do for a career. So, the question is Daniel Suarez talented enough to make use of this SHR equipment? That is the question here. Is he going to be an Eric Almirola or is he going to be a Danica Patrick? And I know that's going to be a heated discussion here, and I apologize for starting that already. But Eric Almirola has already performed well in that 10-car at Stewart Haas Racing. He has shown he can do well with good equipment. Danica Patrick showed she could not necessarily do good with good equipment. So, is Daniel Suarez going to be an Eric Almirola or is he going to be a Danica Patrick? These are the questions we must ask ourselves, and these questions will be answered by the end of the season, I think. Because I think by the end of the season, then we'll have a good gauge on whether Daniel Suarez is up to the challenge of having good equipment or not. But that's all we got for you today. Some ARCA announcements coming up later in the week I'm hearing grumblings of, so we should have some RNN news breaks here between now and the ARCA Daytona test. So keep an eye out for that coming up here in the next couple of days. And of course, diecast review coming up on Wednesday as usual. So that'll do it for today's RNN News Break. If you haven't done it already, go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. And while you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It's much appreciated when you do. So with that, this has been an RNN News Break. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.